Hello traders and investors, welcome back to the Trend Trader channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to find dividend paying stocks using TradingView. There are so many ways that you can find dividend paying stocks. You can search multiple websites. One of those websites is moneyweb.com, or you can even search on ShareData. But in this case, I'm going to show you how to find dividend paying stocks using TradingView. Remember, this is a continuation of the TradingView tutorials that we've been doing in the past videos. So once you have logged into your TradingView account, remember that you can just we want to actually open the charts, but we're not going to be using the charts today. So you want to go to a place where there is a chart area so that you can be able to find the things that we're gonna be going through. Okay, we're still using the tutorial template that we created in the past few weeks, but today we are not interested in the chart. So you see, when you click here at the bottom of the screen, there are a couple of things that are written there. So there's a stock screener. That is what we're going to be using today. So we're going to be screening for companies that can pay us dividends. And then the Pine editor, if you want to create an automated trading strategy, you can use the Pine editor once you are done with the strategy, and then you can test the strategy in the market using previous prices. For South Africans, we don't have a broker that is linked to TradingView, but for other people, like we mentioned in the past, some people they are using Pepperstone. In this trading panel, that is where you are able to place trades. So if you click this up arrow here, you get the option. You can see that now it has increased this position, the options a bit, but now the screen is half. What you want to maximize it, you just click in there. This is the maximizing panel. We want to maximize this panel. So now we can see all the different screenings that we are looking for. So today we are going to be looking at South African companies. If you click here on the flag, there we want to change the market. Then you can scroll down. You will see, we start to see Middle East and Africa. So interested in South African companies, the GSE. Then you click apply. So all these companies now, so since we're just going to clear, because I was searching for something there. So when you go under filters, we're going to reset all so that you get all the GSE companies. So now we can see that the GSE has 321 companies that are matched. So that include different companies. If you look at the symbol type, you can see we've got all these things. So there are common stocks. What we want to look at the common stocks. Remember that we are looking for dividend paying stocks, so there's no need for us to look at the ETFs. In South Africa, as far as I know, we don't have ADRs or depository receipt. But also remember, some companies, real estate investment trust, they are there, so we want to include the real estate investment trust. We're not looking at the trust funds, we just want to look at the common stocks and then also look at the real estate investment trust. Remember, the ETFs, they do pay dividends as well, and also some of the preferred stocks, they do pay dividends, but most investors are ordinary stock investors, which is called a common stock in the US. In South Africa, we know that as ordinary shares, so we're more interested in ordinary shares. So we're going to stick to real estate investment trust, because some real estate investment trust are also seen as common shares, but we are more interested in the common shares. So what we are left with now is 230 companies based on that filtering of common shares and also on that real estate investment trust. So here you can see we're starting with a Go Life International. So the shares are sorted based on their prices. You can sort them with their names, but in this case they are sorted with their price. It doesn't matter what you want to sort them with. Even if you are looking for penny stocks, for those people that are interested in penny stocks, you can see all the companies that are trading below R1 per share, from Insimbi Holding all the way down. But one thing that you need to keep in mind with the companies that are trading below R1, if you look at the volume tab here, you can see that Finbond Group only traded 6,000 shares. So the problem with some of these penny stocks is that they are illiquid. You can be able to buy the share, but if you want to exit that position, then it can become near difficult to exit that position. You look at a company like Labat Africa, which is trading at 15 cents per share. You look at the volume there, it's about 3.123 million. But for those people that own this share, if they want to sell it, they know the difficulty of trying to get someone to buy the share in the open market. But I just digress. Now let's look at what we are here for. So you can see there at the top of the tab, we've got different things. At this moment we are looking at an overview panel. We can also look at it from a performance panel. So when we click on the performance tab, we can see the performance of these companies from a 1 minute chart all the way to over a yearly performance, which covers 12 months period. The year to date, it's from the 1st of January up to the date that you are looking at. That it's not over a 12 calendar month year, the way that we see the year. So we can easily see that some of the companies that have done well in the past 6 months, you can see their performance in there. But we don't want to focus more on the penny stocks. It's better to focus on those companies that are easily tradable, those big companies with big names, then so that you can compare companies that are a bit bigger. But when you click on the last drop down menu there, then you find that there is dividends. So that is where we're interested in. So now we are looking at the companies based on their dividend information. You can see there are companies that have a dividend yield, so it's a forward dividend yield. Remember, the dividend yield is calculated. They take the dividend that has been paid in the last 12 months and then they divide that by the share price. Then we get to see that dividend yield. So since we're looking for companies that pay dividends, we're going to ignore all the companies that have dash in them, so that we can only focus on the companies that have positive figures in them. You can see some of it is 0%, but some of them, those that are greater than 0%, they are highlighted in green. Also the company, you can see the dividend that is paid. So in this case, let us look at just a big company. Like I said, it's better to look at a big company than to look at a small company. So let's see which company that we're finding. Okay, we can see here we've got Old Mutual Limited. The share price of Old Mutual is 10 rand 34 cents. You can see the dividend yield is 7.35%. The dividend that was paid, it was 2.6 billion, but the dividend per share over final year, remember, it's a full year, not final year. So by full year, we mean that the companies, they report their result twice in a year. We've got interim result and then we've got final year result. So once we've got the result for the full year, then they combine the dividends that were paid. So over a 12 months period, you can see that Old Mutual paid a dividend of 76 cents per share. My assumption is that this is a gross dividend, so it's not an after-tax dividend, meaning that you still need to subtract the 20% dividend withholding tax, because every time you receive a dividend, then you pay tax then to SARS. So it always happens. So now, instead of browsing through all these companies, going through the ones that have dash and zeros, we can just decide to filter based on the dividend yield. So when you go to the dividend yield tab there, you see there are these two things next to the dividend yield. When you click on it, then there's an option there to filter the information. So here we're looking for companies that pays a dividend yield that is above or equal. Remember that when it's 0%, it highlights as just 0. So now we're just going to be looking, maybe let's say 0.05%. Then it changes. It's only going to give us those companies that have a dividend yield that is greater than 0.05. So we can see all those companies in there. So now you have the complete list of all the companies that can potentially pay you dividend in the JSE. Remember, this is based on the past 12 months. If these companies, they struggle in the next coming months, some of these companies won't be able to pay that dividend. So there are a lot of things to consider when you want to invest in dividend paying companies. You need to look at the business itself. How is the business doing? Where is the market going? Is that business making money? Because if that business is not making money, going forward, it might be difficult for that company to pay you a dividend. But now we can see that from all the over 300 companies that are listed in the JSE, about 162 of those companies, they have a dividend yield that is greater than 0.05. So there are so many ways that you can filter it. Sometimes I do prefer that I only look at companies that have a dividend yield that is greater than 2%. So you can see now, once we have the companies that have a dividend yield that is greater than 2%, now we are left with 243 companies. So over 15 companies are no longer covered here. But remember that this list is sorted using the price. If you want to sort this list using the dividend yield, you just click at the dividend yield. So you see there at the top, we start with Capitec Bank Holdings, which has a dividend yield of 2.09%. The full year dividend that they paid was 36.40 rand per share. But the share price of Capitec is huge. You can see it's 1,744 rand there per share. So that is why the dividend yield is smaller. Remember, the dividend yield is the dividend that is paid divided by the share price. So the bigger the share price, not necessarily that the dividend is small. The dividend is going to be based on the profitability of the company. It's not necessarily based on the share price of that company. So from here you can see we just filtered with all the companies that have a dividend yield that is greater than 2. So we are left with 143 companies. Then you can scroll through. Another thing that you can consider is to look at the inflation. Where is the inflation at that particular time? Let's say, for example, the inflation is at 6% and now you want to beat inflation. So maybe you want to look at companies that have a dividend yield that is greater than 7%. So you can go back up there. You can change that. Instead of 2, we're looking at companies that have a dividend yield that is greater than 7%. Right? So now we are only left with 57 companies. Most of these companies, their share price is greater than 1 rand. If we were to filter it with the share price, okay, we've got African Equity, which is 74 cents, but most of the other companies other than African Equity, the share price is trading above 1 rand per share. Okay, but look at Accelerate Property Fund. It has a 21% dividend yield, but we don't see the dividend that is paid, or maybe it was not taken from the company financials. We see that they paid a dividend of 22 cents there. That is why we have about 20% dividend yield. So that is another way to filter through that information. So once again, when we sort it out using the dividend yield, we can see they were starting with Anglo American Platinum or Anglo American PLC. There's Anglo American Platinum, then there's Anglo American Group. The PLC is Anglo American Group. If you buy Anglo American Group, you get exposure to Anglo American Platinum, Kumba Iron Ore, and all the other companies that are under the umbrella of Anglo American. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. Then as you scroll down at the bottom, we can see the last company there, because it's filtered by the dividend yield. The company that paid the highest dividend yield in the past 12 months was Merafe Resources. The reason for that, you can see the dividend that was paid, it's about 30 cents, 0.29 or 29 cents per share. But the share price of Merafe Resources, it's 1 rand 16 cents. That is why the dividend yield is high. Okay, so from this you can then start to drill down to each companies. Then you look at, let's say for example, you're interested in Thungela. Thungela has a dividend yield of 20%. Then you can start to dive deeper into the company, look at all the other available information to make an informed decision. That is to say, just because, don't only look on the dividend yield and pick companies based on their dividend yield. Also pick companies on the quality of the businesses, because as long as the business is profitable, then that company is going to be able to continue to pay investors dividend. But if you pick a company just based on a dividend yield, and then that company, it struggles for whatsoever reason, that company struggles, then the dividend is going to stop coming. Once the dividend stop coming, maybe even the share price is falling at that time. It means that you will lose from the dividend, because you won't be receiving a dividend, but also at the same time, the capital that you invested will be depreciating as the share price go down. So that's it that I wanted to share with you today on how to find the dividend paying companies using the TradingView screener. There are so many other platforms that you can use to screen for dividend paying companies. I just use TradingView. I find it easy to get most of the information that I want. So if you found value in this video, please consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed, and if you have already subscribed, feel free to smash that like button. I will see you in the next video.